My name is Sylvia Puente. I'm president and CEO of the Latino Policy Forum. I'm a lifelong Chicagoan and happy to be here sharing with you today. So Latino Policy Forum, we're a small nonprofit in the city of Chicago that punches way above our weight. We work on issues of education, housing, immigration, primarily trying to impact public policy in Springfield with an overall agenda of how do we promote Latino equity, Latino access, and Latino inclusion to really promote an agenda of Latino equity. We also have a leadership program which brings together Black and Latino community leaders, and we train them, and really proud that we have several hundred leaders that are now working together in neighborhoods across Chicago. And we convene coalitions. So we have a Welcome to Illinois coalition, which has been meeting every other week on the migrant situation to provide information and resources. Over 100 people attend those calls, and we've seen a lot of partnerships emerge from that. And we also convene our other big coalition is the Latino Agenda, which is the largest coalition of Latino leaders in the state. I think of the Latino Policy Forum as we are data-driven, and we lead with the data to talk about what is equitable and inequitable for the Latino community. And I think about our Latino Agenda as the moral voice of the Latino community, because we take positions when the leadership asks us to on key issues that impact our city and our region. The state created a new Department of Early Education this year. Early education is one of our core issues because all the research that says if children are enrolled in preschool, it changes their academic trajectory and their future. So my team, we were very involved in that. One of our staff, our Vice President of Education, was appointed to the state's advisory committee that's meeting on this. Other staff, and again, you don't do any of this alone, working with other advocates, met weekly with the governor's office during legislation, and we really made sure that there was inclusion of Latino children, bilingual children, and equity considerations in the formation of this new department to look at early education. And I'll just give you one concrete example that I'm particularly proud of, and that is Illinois is now the first state in the nation to ensure that all children can have access to an early education, to preschool, regardless of their immigration status. So the legislation basically mirrors Plyler versus Doe considerations, which is the landmark Supreme Court decision that said that all children are entitled to an education K to 12. We now have taken that language and adapted it so that now it pertains to children birth to 5. We're the first state in the nation to do that. That's particularly important given the threats of one of the presidential candidates to say that they would abolish the Department of Education to make sure that children still have access. In housing, during COVID, we worked really hard with our legislators who introduced legislation to create a program that provided mortgage and rental assistance to people who were impacted by COVID and were struggling to pay their mortgage and their rent. So we did everything from do the analysis on how that legislation would impact Latino families, testified on the legislation, helped get it through the legislative process, but then brought community leaders to the table when the department that was going to implement the program was developing its guidelines to make sure there was Latino inclusion and Latino access. And we're really proud that nearly $500 million that everyone in the state of Illinois could apply, again, regardless of their citizenship. We also have recently expanded our education agenda to look at higher education. Last year we released a huge report on Latinos in the suburbs, because most Latinos in Chicago now live outside of Chicago, and really strengthened our understanding of them. We did a major publication with the Brookings Institute on the Latino wealth gap, and really helped us understand what are the dimensions and the aspects that contribute to the wealth gap. Now clearly I could talk about this a long time, But those are just some of the many examples of the kinds of things we're working on. It sort of goes without saying that I think we're at a critical point in our nation's history. I don't know there's ever been more of a stark contrast in the values and the beliefs and the perspectives of both of the leading presidential contenders. I think that we know that one of them has gone around saying that they will, if nothing else, that they will do mass deportations, which I sort of fail to see how that can happen, but that is very much a threat, and really have been using Latinos and immigration as a scapegoat, as part of their campaign tactics. So if nothing else, in our own self-preservation for our family members who may not have legal status in the United States, I think it's really important that we understand the threat that faces us, particularly around immigration. But again, this candidate has put forth, and I refuse to say their name, this candidate has put forth a policy of abolishing the Department of Education. What is that going to do to our nation and our future and our children? I think there is so much at stake in this election. Now, we know that in Illinois, 30,000 Latinos turn 18 every year. We know that half of our electorate is under 35. We know that younger electorates are less likely to vote. So there's a lot of work to be done to both register people in our community to vote, but also to get them out to the polls. And so some of that responsibility falls on us. And through our Latino agenda, we have a Voto Ya campaign. So again, working with many community leaders and putting up information so people know where to go register to vote, who their candidates are, how they can go vote. So we'll be doing that campaign again. But it's also really incumbent on the candidates to reach out to us. And we did a recent analysis that showed that in our last gubernatorial election, over $150 million was spent on media buys. Only 1% of that went to Spanish language media. And obviously now not all our community watches Spanish language media, but only 1%. It's not acceptable. And half of Latinos who were polled said they hadn't been contacted by either party. So it's really incumbent on, it's a mutuality of responsibility for us to register and encourage and educate our community to vote, but the candidates also have a responsibility to reach out. Now, I think that's important because in Illinois we're 13% of the electorate, but in the nation we're a growing portion of the electorate, and we are the pivotal vote in key swing states. When we look at both the Latino community in states like Arizona and Nevada, which are swing states, the Latino vote can make a difference in the outcome, which will make a difference in the Electoral College, which has the potential to really sway the election in favor of the Democratic or the Republican candidate. For people to understand education, not all the new migrants are getting work visas or TPS. Some are, but some aren't. And to really, it's really hard when people see that some people get some things and that they haven't been able to get. So I understand that tension is real. I understand that sense of unfairness is real, because it is unfair. Our whole immigration system is unfair. We know that it's been in need of reform to fix our broken immigration system for such a long time. And all we can continue to do is elevate the voice and propose policy solutions that can treat all immigrants in a fair and just way.
Thank you, Sylvia. That's
good enough?
Yeah.
good enough.
All right.
Maybe we can just add a little more. Our mission is also how we can call the community to come join us to the movement and for action. Do you have a message for us and for the community?
Sure. Well, it's important to educate ourselves, right? And what I would say, especially to our younger, I went to an event yesterday as one a DNC adjacent event, and It was younger leaders and more mature leaders, right? I'm going to be 66 next month. I've been doing some version of this work for more than 40 years. Really continue, and I don't like to use the word fight, and I know we use that word a lot in advocacy circles, because fight keeps us in our anger, right? I prefer to keep us in our truth and what is just, and to stand for what is equitable. So one message would be, especially if you're going to be doing this work for as long as I have got to do, you've got to keep yourself healthy. And if you're in that anger, if you're in that energy of anger, you're going to get sick. And I think we see that a lot. So how do we do this work? Standing in our truth for justice and equity, coming from that place of peace and coming from that place of love. So I think how we show up really, really matters. But the other thing that I would say to everyone has leadership potential, and everyone can be an activist, because everyone has a sphere of influence. Some people, I've been blessed to be of service in leading this organization, but everybody can help somebody. And if you bring someone along, that is how you exercise leadership. When you open the door for someone, when you say, how did I finish college? How did I get to be a journalist? How did I fill out my FAFSA form, right? Anything you do like that is an act of service, and that is an act of leadership. And I'm getting emotional. Who knows why, but people know me, I do. So my message would be that everybody can step up and everybody can do something in whatever your sphere of influence is, right? So whether it's helping someone you know finish high school and get to college, right? Whether it's protesting and going to a march, right? We all have that capacity for leadership, and my call to action would be is take up the responsibility for leadership. And certainly the easiest way to do that is to go out and vote, is to, in this momentous election, decide what candidate you want to work for, whether that's at the national level, at the local level. You can make phone calls, you can door knock, you can do something to encourage electoral participation. But even if that's not your jam and you don't want to be involved in politics, right, you can still help someone in some way. And if we all do that, that energy, I believe, is contagious. And if we all do a little something, that then I think can be the momentum to change the world, to make the world as it is, to the world as it should be.
Gracias. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you for asking me that. I can get it.